Can you believe my family tried to rope me into babysitting 15 hyperactive kids at a wedding, all while expecting me to pay for my own flight and accommodation? I mean, seriously, was I wrong for changing my plans and ghosting the entire event after that audacity? Tell me if you would have done the same thing, because I'm still reeling from the sheer nerve of it all. Let me take you back to where this whole insane saga began. My cousin, Sarah, was getting married. Sarah and we've always been close, or at least I thought we were. We grew up together, shared secrets, and she was always the one I could confide in. So when she announced her engagement to Mark, a genuinely nice guy, I was thrilled for her. The wedding was set for late summer, at a beautiful, slightly upscale venue about a 5-hour flight away from where I live. Naturally, I was excited to celebrate with her. The initial invitation arrived, and it was a standard affair. RSVP by X date, gift registry details, and the usual polite requests. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at that point. I promptly RSVP'd yes, booked my flight, and even started looking for a cute outfit. I was picturing a lovely weekend, catching up with family I hadn't seen in a while, and dancing the night away at Sarah's reception. A few weeks later, I got a call from my aunt, Sarah's mom, who we'll call Aunt Carol. Now, Aunt Carol has always been a character. She's the type of person who sees herself as the matriarch, the one who knows best, and who subtly or not so subtly manipulates situations to her advantage, always under the guise of family. I answered, expecting a chat about wedding preparations or perhaps a request for help with something minor, like picking up some favors or helping to address envelopes. Oh, how naive I was. "Hi, darling. So glad you're coming to Sarah's wedding," she began, her voice dripping with an almost sickly sweet tone that immediately put me on guard. "We were just talking about you the other day, and we had the most brilliant idea." My internal alarm bells started ringing. "Oh, what's that, Aunt Carol?" I asked, trying to sound enthusiastic, but feeling a growing sense of dread. She then launched into this elaborate explanation. "You know how expensive weddings are, and with all the little ones running around, it's just a nightmare for parents to relax and enjoy themselves. Plus, we don't want the kids bothering the other guests during the ceremony and speeches, do we?" I nodded along, understanding the premise. Many weddings have a kids' table or even a separate room with activities. "So," she continued, "we thought, who better than you to look after them? You're so good with children, always have been. And it would be such a huge help to Sarah and Mark. A real wedding gift from you." My mind was racing. "Look after them, you mean like babysit?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Exactly," she chirped, completely oblivious to the dawning horror on my face. "We're going to set up a separate room at the venue, maybe with some toys and a TV. All the kids from both sides of the family will be there. There are about 15 of them in total, ranging from toddlers to early teens. You can keep an eye on them, make sure they eat their special kid-friendly food, and just generally keep them entertained. It'll be so much fun for you. 15 kids. Toddlers to early teens, a wedding, my wedding gift." All of this information hit me like a tidal wave. I was speechless. I wasn't a professional babysitter, nor had I ever expressed a desire to be one. My experience with children was limited to playing with my younger cousins for an hour or two at family gatherings, not managing a small army of them for an entire day and evening. "Aunt Carol," I finally managed to stammer, "that's a lot of children. For how long would I be doing this?" She scoffed playfully. "Oh, just from the ceremony through to the end of the reception, darling. So, about 6 or 7 hours, maybe 8, if the party goes on late. Don't worry, we'll make sure you get a meal too." A meal, my compensation for wrangling 15 children for 8 hours, was a meal. And to top it all off, she added, and think of it, you'll already be there. You've already booked your flight, haven't you? It's perfect. The implication was clear. I was already committed to being there, so I might as well make myself useful. The fact that I had paid for my own expensive flight and booked a hotel room, expecting to be a guest, not unpaid labor, seemed to completely escape her. I tried to reason with her. Aunt Carol, I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I was planning on being a guest to celebrate with Sarah. I don't think I can effectively babysit 15 children while also trying to enjoy the wedding. Her tone immediately shifted from sweet to slightly irritated. Oh, don't be silly. What's more important than helping family? Sarah really needs this, and you're the only one we trust. Besides, it's just for one night. You'll still see Sarah during the ceremony, and maybe for a quick dance at the end, if the kids are settled. I tried again, feeling my patience wear thin. But Aunt Carol, I'm not a professional. What if something happens? What if one of the toddlers needs changing, or a teenager gets upset? And what about dinner? Am I supposed to eat with the kids? Or will I get a break? She brushed off my concerns like they were trivial. Oh, you'll manage, you're resourceful, and we'll bring you some food. Don't worry about breaks, you can just pop out for a minute if you need to. It was clear there was no room for negotiation. She had made up her mind, and she expected me to fall in line. The call ended with her saying, "So, it's settled then. Sarah will be so grateful. We'll send you the details closer to the date. Love you." And she hung up before I could utter another word. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling a mix of shock, anger, and utter disbelief. My own family, the people I loved, were essentially asking me to be a free childcare provider for their massive event, all while I was paying out of pocket to even attend. It wasn't just the request, it was the entitled assumption that I would say yes, that I should say yes, because family. It made me question everything. Had I been too agreeable in the past? Had they always seen me as someone to be used, rather than a valued member of the family? I thought about calling Sarah directly, but I knew she'd be stressed with wedding planning. Plus, I suspected this was primarily Aunt Carol's brainchild, and Sarah might not even be fully aware of the extent of the babysitting plan, or the expectation that I'd be doing it for free. I considered saying no, but I knew that would unleash a torrent of guilt, tripping and passive-aggressive comments from Aunt Carol, and probably others in the family. It would turn into a huge dramatic affair, and I just didn't have the energy for that confrontation, especially with a wedding looming. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have sucked it up and played unpaid babysitter, or would you have stood your ground? What would you have said to Aunt Carol? I spent the next few days stewing, replaying the conversation in my head. The more I thought about it, the more indignant I became. This wasn't just a small favor. It was a massive imposition, disguised as a gift. I was giving to the bride and groom. A gift that would cost me my entire wedding experience, my money for travel, and my time, all for absolutely no compensation other than a free meal, which I was already entitled to as a guest anyway. The disrespect was palpable. They weren't offering to pay for my flight, my accommodation, or even a token amount for my time. It was a classic case of assuming my generosity and taking advantage of my supposed family obligation. I looked at my flight confirmation, my hotel booking, and the dress I had excitedly bought. All of it felt tainted now. The joy I had felt about Sarah's wedding had completely evaporated, replaced by a bitter resentment. I knew, deep down, that I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't sit there, watching the rest of my family celebrate and enjoy themselves, while I was locked away in a room, trying to prevent 15 children from setting the place on fire. It would ruin the entire weekend for me, and I would forever associate Sarah's wedding with this terrible feeling of being exploited. The solution, when it finally came to me, was surprisingly simple, yet utterly terrifying in its implications for family relations. I decided I wasn't going. Not only was I not babysitting, I wasn't even attending. I canceled my flight and my hotel reservation. I made up a story about a sudden, unavoidable work emergency that required me to be in a completely different city that weekend. I crafted an email to Sarah, a very apologetic one, explaining my unforeseen circumstances and how devastated I was to miss her big day. I sent her a generous gift from her registry, along with a heartfelt card wishing her and Mark all the happiness in the world. I emphasized how much I loved her and how sorry I was that I couldn't be there. I made no mention of Aunt Carol's babysitting request. I kept it vague, polite, and regretful. Then I braced myself. The wedding weekend came and went. I stayed off social media, avoided calls from unknown numbers, and generally kept a low profile. I felt a pang of guilt, especially thinking of Sarah, but it was quickly overshadowed by a sense of relief and empowerment. I had stood up for myself, even if it was in a passive-aggressive way. The fallout, as expected, was a slow burn, but it eventually exploded. A few days after the wedding, I got a text from Aunt Carol. "Darling, what happened? We were expecting you. Sarah was so disappointed. The kids' room was a disaster without you." She was playing innocent, of course, as if she had no idea why I might have suddenly had a work emergency. I replied with a very brief, polite message, reiterating my regret and the unavoidable nature of my work commitment. Then came the calls. My mom, bless her heart, was the first to call. She had heard whispers and was trying to mediate. "Your Aunt Carol is upset," she said gently. "She said you just canceled at the last minute and left them in a lurch. She said the kids were running wild because they didn't have anyone to watch them." I explained the full story to my mom, including the babysitting request and the expectation that I would pay my own way. My mom was initially sympathetic, but still urged me to smooth things over. "It's family, honey. You don't want to burn bridges." But after hearing the details, especially the part about the 15 kids and no pay, she slowly started to understand my perspective. That was a bit much, even for Carol, she conceded. The real drama started when some of my other cousins began to message me. "Heard you bailed on Sarah's wedding. Not cool. Aunt Carol is saying you completely abandoned them with all the kids." The narrative had already been spun. I was the irresponsible, selfish cousin who left everyone hanging. I calmly explained my side of the story to anyone who directly asked, focusing on the unfair expectation of being an unpaid babysitter for such a large group, after paying for my own travel. Some understood, some didn't. The family was definitely divided. Sarah, to her credit, called me herself about a week after the wedding. She sounded tired, but not angry. "I heard what happened with Mom," she said quietly. "She told me she asked you to help with the kids, but she didn't say she expected you to do it all weekend, or that you'd paid for everything yourself. I'm really sorry if you felt put upon." Her apology felt genuine, and it helped to ease some of the tension. I explained my feelings, how I had felt used and disrespected. She listened, and she even admitted that the kids' room had indeed been a bit chaotic, and that she wished she had known the full extent of her mother's plan earlier. We had a long, honest conversation, and by the end of it, we agreed to move past it. Our relationship, thankfully, survived. My relationship with Aunt Carol, however, took a significant hit. She never directly confronted me about the babysitting, but she did send me a passive, aggressive text a few months later about how some people just aren't cut out for family responsibilities. I didn't respond. I learned a valuable lesson about setting boundaries and not allowing myself to be taken advantage of, even by family. Sometimes, the most peaceful way to stand your ground is to simply remove yourself from the situation. It wasn't the ideal way to handle it, and I felt bad for Sarah for a little while, but ultimately, I protected my peace and my wallet. I stood up for myself, and I don't regret it. So, that's the whole messy saga. It taught me that while family is important, my self-worth and my boundaries are even more so. I hope it was a lesson for my aunt, too, though I doubt it. She's probably already plotting her next brilliant idea. Like this video if you were on my side in this whole situation. Subscribe for more stories like this, and make sure to share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story. SE Polish language ma convert k are